The Rams suffer another key injury. Will they address it with the trade? Also, 5 big questions the Rams have to answer after the bye. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button for your Los Angeles Rams. We are getting very close to 20,000 subscribers. We might even be there. Let's see. Let's see. This will make people want to subscribe. Just get the exact amount here. We're at 19,996.
Okay, let's go.
Away. I'm calling my aunts. I'm calling family members. I might have to create a couple burner accounts and some separate emails, but I guarantee by the next episode we'll be at 20K by any means necessary.
Shake yourself, people.
Exactly. Come on, join the movement. So definitely do that. But my name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleach Report, SI, Dodgers Nation. As always, I'm joined by the Rams pre, half, and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's in his 11th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, some more bad injury news for the Rams. We'll get into that. We'll talk about what they're going to do. Also, what are the big questions the Rams need to answer after the bye? But first, today's episode of Locked On Rams brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, Travis. So we'll see how long we can get into this episode without bringing up the Los Angeles Dodgers and what we saw last. I guess it's already over.
I was going to say, I want to talk about Yamamoto being up in the pen one day after he threw 100 pitches in back-to-back completed games. Go check out Locked On Dodgers. Harry and I broke it all down. It was, my God, what an unbelievable baseball game. Just as good as it absolutely gets. And I don't know where Ohtani is from, like what part of the galaxy that they found this guy, but he needs a new league to get called up to because that dude is not normal.
So many walks for Ohtani last night. I thought Decoy was going to get jealous. Like, I mean, my man got in his steps. I want to see his steps, his Fitbit. I mean, dude like put in like 30K steps like he went to Disneyland or something yesterday.
Crazy.
But let's talk about our favorite football team, the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams will be without another member for this upcoming game and for a stretch of time, and that is wide receiver Tutu Atwell. They placed him on the injured reserve yesterday. He won't be eligible to return until at least week 13 against the Carolina Panthers. He was dealing with a hamstring injury earlier in the season. He missed week 6. He played in just 10 snaps in week 7, but the injury just didn't improve during the bye week, and he's now on the IR. This year, he has 4 catches on 9 targets for 164 yards, had the one big touchdown against the Colts. He did sign that 1-year, $10 million deal to return to the Rams this offseason. So, interesting. I mean, this is a guy where you think that you're hoping, okay, it's because he's not getting targets is why he's not being productive. But right now he's dealing with an injury, and it's interesting to kind of shape this one.
Yeah, he's had a year, I think, that has been pretty good. Certainly been more impactful this season than he's been at any other point in his career. He's made some big plays. Like you mentioned, the biggest one against the Colts, that was kind of the walk-off shot for the Rams to give. But by the way, the Colts' only loss of the season. Like the further we get into the year and the Colts are still sitting on 1 loss, the more and more impressive that play becomes, the more and more impressive that victory becomes. I think that my thoughts on Tutu Atwell are fairly well established here on Locked On Rams. The everydayers know that I'm not the biggest Tutu fan in the world, but I think it is a loss, to be sure. They're going to miss him. He has been effective through the first 7 games of the season for them. Now, the good news is they have options, right? They can turn to Jordan Whittington. They can turn to Xavier Smith. We saw Kanata Mudfield get in the end zone for the first time in Baltimore. So it isn't like they are, stuck in the mud without a good option with that third wide receiver. There are plenty there. But, I know we're going to talk about some of the other things getting ready after the bye, but there's still the question about Puka and whether or not he's 100% healthy, whether or not he's going to be ready to go, whether or not he'll be as effective as he typically is. So, being down another starting wide receiver is always something to be concerned about. But I do think it's something that the Rams can certainly manage around.
Certainly, I think you look at where this Rams team is, just look at week 7 with Puka Nacua out. Guys got opportunities and guys stepped up. Mumfield got his first career touchdown. Terrence Ferguson got his first career touchdown. Devontae Adams stepped up, was big with 3 TDs. You're going to get Puka Nacua back. Jordan Whittington's another guy you can lean on. But having said all that, they don't have what Tutu brings, which is a deep vertical threat that really just takes the top off an offense, other than the guys that are at the top. With Devontae and Puka Nacua can, of course, do those things. But it's interesting because I think if you're Sean McVay, we know that, hey, we saw more 12 personnel. We even saw some 13 personnel. So really, you would think that this probably opens things up for another receiver. I think truly this opens up things for a tight end, and his name is Terrence Ferguson, hopefully, if that's the case. But then the next kind of question becomes, Mumfield's interesting too. He can do some things, but the next question becomes, we saw what they did with the injuries to Darius Williams and Ahkello Witherspoon, bring in a cornerback in McCreary. Do you consider bringing in a receiver, not just to maybe fill in what Tutu can do, but also just see if he's an impact guy? You're going to do our crossover with the great Ross Jackson, the greatest boss of all bosses. Should get him a mug. That's going to be a great mug for him. Yeah, exactly. Give him the Michael. I saw him yesterday, by the way. I kind of feel sad. I was like, Steve, first of all, I said Michael Scott, and that's always a big buzzkill, right? To start with that. And then I'm like, no, Steve Carell, but it was like very like, oh man, I kind of felt like, oh gosh, I hope this didn't ruin the office for me. You know what I mean?
Well, the Dodger Stadium with the stars were out, right? There were a million famous faces in that ballpark last night. I agree with you that maybe another wide receiver is something to throw into the mix. I think that the Rams are going to be aggressive. You mentioned this a week or so ago, that when we're talking about maybe upgrading the cornerback position, that you kind of double down on what you're already good at. We were talking about pass rushing at the time, but look, you got Devontae Adams, you got Puka Nacua. If you could throw a third weapon in there with Matthew Stafford having the ability to do what he's still doing and having the season that he's having, that would be really something interesting to see. But I keep going back to what we saw even last week with no Puka. They hit 10 different people with passes. They are really spreading it around. Now, Baltimore's defense is a wreck, and I don't think you're going to get a great look at something in New Orleans that's going to give you a feel for what it's going to be like moving forward. But after New Orleans, San Francisco, Seattle, Tampa, like you got a gauntlet of good NFC teams that are coming up. So I don't hate the idea of doubling down what you're already pretty good at and kind of going at it from there. And we've seen it before. We talked about it yesterday. It's why you got to be an everydayer. That when they kind of got a whiff of a chance to go win a Super Bowl or make a run at a Super Bowl, they don't wait around and think that they're going to be good enough. They go and make sure that they're good enough. And I think that would be a really interesting move for them to make.
Absolutely. I think it definitely gives them another wrinkle possibly. And just, I think when you look at Rams receivers for Sean McVay, you have to be able to do everything. You have to be able to block. You have to be able to run and just make catches and have strong hands. But also think too, if there's a special, and you got to be able to process offenses and be in the right place at the right time for sure. But I also think too that there also is always room where if you do one thing that's really good, they'll kind of look past some of the versatility things to try to kind of respect that. And I think the reason why I brought up Ross Jackson, the New Orleans Saints, is you got a guy that could be dealt, and that is Rashid Shaheed, and he's interesting because he does a lot of things that are Tutu Atwell-ish. And if you look at wide receiver leaders on uncatchable air yards, that's a kind of a wild stat, I know, but he's third with 308, meaning that their QB definitely is not getting the football the way they need to. So, it's trade season. I'm a little kind of bugging out, and like this, it's like the money's burning a hole in your pocket type thing as far as just trying to improve your roster. And it wouldn't surprise me if they kind of went out there and just did something. They don't need to. They probably won't. I mean, Brian Thomas Jr. is the pipe dream, I think, because he could be the present and the future and does a lot of really amazing things could do a lot of amazing things for this offense. But it'll be interesting to see if at least they're fielding calls. I'm
not even going to try to ask you to explain to me what uncatchable air yardage is or whatever it is you said. That is.
You should look it up. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I
just learned about it yesterday. Not gonna lie.
Look, I'm still dealing with OPS and WAR in baseball. I can't come around to whatever you got going on with uncatchable air yards. I do know that I don't think that the Rams are done. I don't know. A wide receiver, I think, would be a little bit of a surprise, but I think you're onto something when it comes to them making a deal at the deadline. I don't think that what we have today, getting ready for the Saints, will be what you have getting ready for the Niners a week from now when we're on the other side of the deadline.
I agree. And the only thing I like Shahida would be from a draft capital cost would be something similar to McCreary. You wouldn't have to break the bank for him and do some interesting things. But coming up next, we've got the questions that the Rams need to answer after the bye week. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
And we're off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Also, a big shout out to those every listeners out there watching, listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. Was at the Dodger game. Man, Eric yesterday was a big fan of Travis Rogers. Big fan. I think I schedule you to host his birthday party. Sorry. He's going to give you a small fee, but he's all in. So shout out to Eric yesterday. I always love meeting these Rams fans at Dodger Stadium. But here in our second segment, Travis, we're going to kind of get into some of these questions the Rams have to answer after the bye week. And this one is a topic that I wanted to lead with for you. The first one, because I know you love this topic and you love special teams and you love talking special teams. You're like special teams guru. And the question is, do you correct this field goal operation? How do you correct it? Joshua Carty, he's had multiple kicks blocked. He's missed makeable kicks. If you look at just the overall numbers, the Rams, they're 31st in field goal DVOA, and that is not good in close games, especially down the stretch with the postseason right around the corner. That's something you need to clean up if you are going to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
I don't know if you know the answer to this off the top of your head, D-Mac. Who's worse than the Rams at kicking field goals? I want to know who's worse than a team that's had 58 field goals blocked in 7 games. I can't imagine who's worse than they are.
Give me a second. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you on that one. But I'm curious to know myself.
Yeah, that's wild. I think you put your finger on it. I think that's the number one thing looking at this team moving forward. You know, Puka's health is obviously something that is important for them. I think that Matthew Stafford and continuing to be healthy and doing what he's doing, maybe getting Rob Havenstein back is something that you keep your eye on. Getting better at corner past the bye, I think is important. But you're right. The most important thing is, what is up with their kicking game? And I don't think we got an answer to it in Baltimore. I know he made all of his PATs, but we saw it right in the first quarter on their opening drive on a fourth and I think it was a 4th and 3 from the 6-yard or whatever it was. I'm going by my memory. It was a situation where 98% of the time somebody kicks a field goal there, puts points on the board early. You have no idea how the game's going to unfold at that point. And the Rams basically said, forget it, man. We're going to go for it. They did it again later when they threw the ball to Terrence Ferguson on a 4th down play from about the 30-yard line. So clearly Sean McVay has feelings about his kicker or his kicking operation. I don't even know if it's Carty's fault to put my finger on it. It may be the protection. It may be the cadence that's too predictable. It could be a million. Chase Blackburn is the one that should be most worried about, looking for something else to do because Carty will land on his feet. He's a pretty good kicker, I think. But yeah, for me, that is by far the most interesting thing because there's not a ton of time to fix it. If they go out there against the Saints and it looks like hot garbage, I mean, you're going into that kicker carousel where you have no idea what's coming out. And maybe Carty is the best bunch, but I don't know if you change long snappers. I don't know if you change special teams coaches, but that has to be better because they will lose a playoff game because of their kicking if they continue to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said right at the very end, because I think that's the most important thing is that we've seen them lose games because of kicking against potential playoff teams. The Eagles, if you make a kick towards the end of that game, you're a 6-1 team. Yep. If you don't miss that extra point where the extra point was blocked against the 49ers, the Rams, they could have played for a field goal to win rather than a touchdown late in that one, and you're just in a better position. When you're playing good teams, when you're playing playoff teams, more often than not, it's going to be a close game that's going to come down to a couple possessions late in the game. And if you don't have a good field goal kicker and special teams that you can trust, you mentioned it on this show a lot of different times. It's not just making or missing kicks. It's how it impacts Sean McVay calling this offense. And that's the thing that really kills it.
Yeah, for sure. That when you know that you can't kick, it changes everything. It changes your decisions. It changes your play calls. It changes, the dynamics and the attitude of your offense. It's everything. And the defense is getting off the field constantly. If the offense isn't putting up points because they can't. And again, you look around the NFL, the numbers change. Like if you have a 50-yard field goal or less, you have to make those. Like that's not just a luxury. That is almost a necessity. And the Rams are foregoing 30-yard field goals, 35-yard field goals, 40-yard field goals. So that's a ton of points you're leaving on the table. And like you said, the trickle down to every other part of your offense is real, right? You're putting more pressure on Kyren Williams. You're putting more pressure on Matthew Stafford and Adams and Nakua and everybody there, knowing that you can't kick. And I kind of wanted to, going back to the Jacksonville game before the bye, was let's try once that game was clearly decided, let's try to kick some long field goals to see what happens. Let's see what it looks like. And they didn't do it. It's still a huge mystery to me.
There's no doubt about it. And we know that the most frustrating Locked On Rams show is one where special teams cost them wins, and we don't want to deal with that. You're watching this episode, you lived through Brett Maher, and consider yourself a survivor of that era. We don't want to go through that again. All right, this next question. Oh, yeah, you say, Travis?
Well, I was just going to say, the Maher thing is a good one. We're going through it again with the Carty era right now. But think about how good it was when Greg the Leg was here. Think about how good it was when Matt Gay was here. Like when that piece is figured out, it's smooth sailing. You know that you got points in your back pocket. And when it's not figured out, the stress level's through the roof.
Do you think that he patented and trademarked Legatron? Like he had to have, right?
He should have. I mean, if he didn't, he missed a huge opportunity. Legatron, Greg the Leg, all of the.
For some reason, I like the simplicity of Greg the Leg better. You know what I mean?
They're both great. Well, Greg the Leg, you're a little too young, but if there's anybody in the Locked On Ram Everydayer community that's listening to this, if you're somewhere around 45 to 55 years old, you'll remember Super Toe, which was this thing you banged on its head and it would kick field goals through your living room. And so I always thought of Greg the Leg as like a human version of Super Toe. I got to get a suit. That's going to be a stocking stuffer for me. I'm going to put that. I need me a Super Toe. That just sounds like a lot of fun on a Sunday afternoon when football ends. I guarantee you will spend multiple hours super towing rubber footballs through your living room. You will do it.
Dude, I literally stopped at a liquor store this weekend, and I bought this thing where it's a basketball hoop in a little plastic shell, and I bought for $2, and you flick your thumb to try to get the little ball through it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I played with it. Like I'm easily amused. Oh, so that's it. Oh my goodness.
That's super toe. You bang super toe on the head, and he launches that football across your living room, and it's an incredible amount of fun.
I'm gonna go to my local KB Toys. Is KB Toys still around? R.I.P. KB Toys.
You're gonna have to go on eBay. Those things are like vintage 1970s or if not earlier.
All right, we're headed to the Bay for a super toe. Now, the next big question. This one kind of hurts me a little bit, just because Rob Havenstein's been so great for this team for so long. Over the last decade, he has been a rock for this organization. He's been managing ankle injury all year, hasn't been as effective as we've seen him in the past. Warren McClendon has done a respectable job in his role. And what I look at is, we saw last year, the Rams, they made an attempt to go back to Jonah Jackson because they paid him, because he had the experience. And then we saw they kind of move some things around with Bo Limmer. I don't expect them to be that aggressive with Rob Havenstein, just because the back of the football card has a bigger track record. Could be a health reason. I still trust him. I don't think he's cooked or anything like that. But if we get deeper into the season, you see the same results, I do think it could be a conversation that they do have.
There's depth there now. That if Havenstein is unable to do it physically, or if we may be at the point where McClendon's just a better option, and maybe not. Maybe Rob comes back and plays like Rob. I mean, he's a Rams legend. He's been around forever, and he's a warrior for sure. But the time comes for everybody at one point or another. So if that's where we are, I think we can feel pretty good about McClendon at this point, because quite frankly, Doug, that you and I haven't talked about him very much, I think speaks volumes. When it comes to the offensive line, the less we say, the better it is. And we haven't spent a ton of time talking about those guys. That's good news. That's
a really good point. And it's good credit to this organization for building that depth and having that depth. I mean, Coleman Shelton hasn't been fantastic as they had hoped he would be, but you've gotten enough. And in the fact that Matthew Stafford isn't lying on the ground, rolling around, getting hit constantly is really a testament to how this offensive line has played. I do think they have a lot of levels they can get to. They can definitely level up a lot, but the building blocks are certainly there. There's no doubt about that. All right, coming up next, we got more questions, and these next ones are involving young players and guys on this roster that could get their opportunities towards the latter stage of the season. Who are they? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Let's be real, right? Making excuses doesn't really solve anything. And I'm sure everybody's heard them all before, right? It's just stress. You're tired. It happens to everybody at some point or another. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. And Rugiet makes it very easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online. There's no trips to waiting rooms that can be weird and awkward, no in-person appointments. And if prescribed, your treatment ships directly, discreetly to your door. The process is fast, it's simple, it's private, and it's all handled by real doctors, right? So visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off of your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL, rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use the code LockedOnNFL so they know that we sent you along. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Also, the NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And look, sometimes maybe you missed the start of the game. Maybe you're watching a little baseball game that's still going on right now, but you want to ride that hot hand when you finally turn it on. FanDuel, live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comeback. So they got you covered even if you're a little late getting there. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at even bigger payouts. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push to make that big comeback and get you paid. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So here's what you do. Get out your phone. You head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Okay, Travis, here in our third segment. More questions that the Rams need to answer after the bye. And the next question is, how involved will their rookies be towards the second half of the season? We saw Terrence Ferguson get 2 targets, made the most of it with a 31-yard touchdown. He looks the part as far as 6'4", 6'5", 4.6 speed. He's physical. The blocking grades were actually impressive considering that's not what he's known for. And it shows that he's really putting a lot of work and he's a willing blocker at the very least. But the snap counts against the Niners, 4, Ravens, 17, Jaguars, 34. So if you noticed, trending up. And Higbee had a couple drops on third down. Do you think that they take the leash off of Terrence Ferguson? Because it feels like that's something that has been a part of the plan for a while now.
It does feel like it's trending in that direction. I agree with you. They're using him a little more. Those other guys are getting a few less reps. I think that the big question is what you said a second ago is, does the offensive line continue to block effectively enough to where you can have a tight end who maybe is not a blocking, machine, right? That's what makes Higbee so valuable. That's what makes Davis. Those guys are pretty good offensive linemen as well as tight ends that can catch some passes. So Ferguson needs to continue to get better there. He needs to continue to do the work that he's done, because when it comes to making plays, he's on a level of his own relative to those other guys on his team. You saw that. I mean, that is an athletic tight end down the field making a whole bunch of plays. That catch that he made to score the touchdown, Tyler Higbee's not making that play. Davis Allen's not making that play. Colby Parkinson's not making that play. So he's got a skill set that's different than the other guys, but he's got to do the basics first. And I do feel like we're starting to check more of those basic boxes. And look, if there is more 12 personnel, if there is 13 personnel, that's a brutal matchup for whoever they're dealing with, having him, much less Devontae and Puka out there as well. So I'm really interested to see if they use more of those formations, because when they do it, Ferguson feels like he's going to be open a lot.
Yeah, and I think, too, if he is going to be a part of this team for a stretch run and their goal is to win a Super Bowl, he has to get really comfortable now. He has to build a lot of chemistry now. You can't wait until the end of the season to say, okay, let's use this guy as our secret weapon. That's not how it works. You got to find rhythm and time. You got to find the plays that work for him. And it's just going to make this offense tougher to prepare for, especially when Puka's back healthy. Devontae Adams is clicking on all cylinders, and the running game is better than they've been. And that's another one, too. I mean, you could probably make an argument that Jarquez Hunter should probably potentially get some time at running back. I mean, that's kind of a deeper cut, but there's Jarquez Hunter. Even when Tutu Atwell comes back, even though he's not a rookie, I mean, when they go to him, he makes plays. I mean, should you stretch the field and use Tutu Atwell? So they have a lot of ways where you don't. This offense hasn't peaked because they haven't explored every avenue, and I think they're still in that process.
I do too. I think what'll be really interesting is if/when Puka is back this week against New Orleans, how many targets does he get? Right? Because like we talked about before, 10 guys caught a pass against Jacksonville. That's incredible distribution. That means everybody's available. That means everybody's in it. That means everybody's engaged. And certainly, Devontae Adams catching 3 touchdown passes is going to keep him happy as well. But if we come back out against the Saints and see the ball going to Puka Nacua 10, 12, 14 times a game, then all of a sudden they become a little bit more one-dimensional, and we've seen that happen before. So I'm excited to have Puka back. He clearly is incredibly important to what they're doing, but can they continue to spread the ball around even if their best guy is back on the field and getting a ton of attention in the process?
That's certainly going to be something to look for. And the last one, that we'll do today. You're going to love this one. I saved this one for last just for you.
All right.
Because you're a uniform aficionado. Yes. One of the big questions is, how will those midnight mode jerseys look on the field when they wear them against the Seahawks in week 11? So when we first dropped them, it was like, okay, pretty solid. They've really grown on me. I asked you to look at the shoulders, how they fixed it with the horn. I actually have a theory. I have a theory that these are actually the first edition of what will ultimately be the new Rams uniforms following this current set. I think what they're going to do is you're going to see a Rams Royal and Soul and the modern throwbacks, they call them, but they're going to have this horn that's the right way, because this horn is fire. It really is. So that's just a theory that I have, but it gives them consistency, and I kind of think they're banging. Like, honestly, like I'm probably going to cop.
I understand what you're saying, and I do like the horn on the sleeve, and that's a good fix. Here's the thing, and this is just me. And by the way, when I go to Rams, I see a ton of these jerseys. They're clearly resonating with Rams fans because they're scooping them up and people are buying them. I don't love it when a team that is not black, right, that one of their primary color, like if you're the Raiders, sure, have black jerseys. But when you're a team that does not have black as one of their primary colors in their palette, when you start rolling out black jerseys, not my favorite thing in the world. We'll see. I'm keeping an open mind, but I'm going in slightly skeptical just because, generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of black jerseys.
They're super dark. It's like midnight, right? It's like it sometimes I think they look like dark, like a super dark version of blue, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, and like kind of the new trend for the Nike jerseys to have that like perforated on the holes, kind of on the numbers. So they're kind of organish as far as like the numbers go.
All right.
But I don't know, like
dead unis like the Ducks did last weekend. Let's go with those,
bro. Just when you think that they can't like do anything to top themselves, they can't somehow do. I got to bring the big. We got to resurrect the big redhead to see those. Bill Walt would love those Grateful Dead ones. But okay, last one though. And admit that these are the best uniforms of all time. These are the Eric Dickerson, Roman Gabriel level Ram jerseys compared to the Dodgers City Connects. They look like fun fit.
Nothing's worse than a Dodger City Connect jersey. Like the Dodgers have some of the best gear in sports, and then they throw on their cake confetti thing, and I can't stand them. I hope they go away forever.
Okay, so then we have agreement there. So the fact you like them better than those, I think that's a good sign.
Oh yeah. No, look. First of all, the Dodgers shouldn't even do a City Connect because the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they don't do stuff like that. At least they shouldn't. But no, the Rams, whatever we're calling those, Midnight Edition or whatever, those are way better than the cake confetti ones.
Totally agree. I'm going to get Travis one for Christmas. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. You can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? Locked On Rams house.